Hello, welcome to Lizzy Co. and the Artist's Way. This is episode 3, in which we finally get through all of the introductory uh, standard setting and we get to week 1 proper. So, we're working with The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I found this copy in my local little free library, and I'm really excited to be exploring it. So let's dive into week 1, which is titled Recovering a Sense of Safety. Shadow artists. One of our chief needs as creative beings is support. Unfortunately, this can be hard to come by. Ideally, we would be nurtured and encouraged first by our nuclear family and then by ever widening circles of friends, teachers, well wishers. As young artists, we need and want to be acknowledged for our attempts and efforts, as well as for our achievements and triumphs. That took me a really long time to tease out the difference between those things and to see the worth in effort that didn't necessarily lead to a concrete result, but rather led to lived experience. Unfortunately, many artists never receive this critical early encouragement. As a result, they may not know they are artists at all. Parents seldom respond, "Try it and see what happens." Uh, Having grown up in the 80s and 90s, I can certainly vouch for this. Peaceful, gentle parenting was not really a thing yet. Parents seldom respond to "try it and see what happens" to artistic urges issuing from their offspring. They offer cautionary advice where support might be more to the point. Timid young artists, adding parental fears to their own, often give up their sunny dreams of artistic careers, settling into the twilight world of could-have-beens and regrets. There, caught between the dream of action and the fear of failure, shadow artists are born. I am thinking here of Edwin, a miserable millionaire trader whose joy in life comes from his art collection. Strongly gifted in the visual arts, he was urged as a child to go into finance. His father bought him a seat on the stock exchange for his 21st birthday. He has been a trader ever since. Now, in his mid-30s, he is very rich and very poor. Money cannot buy him creative fulfillment. Surrounding himself with artists and artifacts, he is like the kid with his nose pressed to the candy store window. He would love to be more creative, but believes that it is the prerogative of others, nothing he can aspire to for himself. A generous man, he recently gifted an artist with a year's living expenses so she could pursue her dreams. Raised to believe that the term artist could not apply to him, he cannot make the same gift for himself. Edwin's is not an isolated case. All too often, the artistic urges of the artist child are ignored or suppressed. Often, with the best intentions, parents try to foster a different, more sensible self for the child. "Stop daydreaming" is one frequently heard admonition. "You will never amount to anything if you keep on with your head in the clouds" is another. I feel fortunate that as an artistic kid myself, my parents were a little more open to that kind of stuff. I think in that way, um, they did sort of rise to the occasion. Baby artists are urged to think and act like baby doctors or lawyers. A rare family, faced with the myth of the starving artist, tells its children to go right ahead and try for a career in the arts. Instead, if encouraged at all, the children are urged into thinking of the arts as hobbies, creative fluff around the edges of real life. For many families, a career in the arts exists outside of their social and economic reality. Art won't pay the electric bill. I got that a lot when I was getting ready to go to music school and then proving everyone wrong and successfully getting into music school. I got a lot of, "Well, you're not going to pay the bills." And I said, "Well, why don't you let me worry about that?" As a result, if the child is encouraged to consider art in job terms at all, he or she must consider it sensibly. Erin, a gifted children's therapist, was in her mid 30s before she began experiencing a haunting dissatisfaction in her work. Unsure what direction to take, she began adapting a children's book for the screen. Midway through the adaptation, she suddenly had a telling dream about abandoning her own artist child. Prior to becoming a therapist, she had been a gifted art student. For 2 decades, she had suppressed her creative urges, pouring all of her creativity into helping others. Now, nearly 40, she found herself longing to help herself. Well, I'll be damned if that isn't about what I'm doing here with this here book just now. I find myself approaching 40 and in a position where I'm helping a lot of other people out, and I really want to make sure I carve out some of that help for myself, because boy does everybody else seem to enjoy that help, and I certainly think I deserve some of it. Erin's story is all too common. Fledgling artists may be encouraged to be art teachers or to specialize in crafts with the handicapped. It's weirdly specific. Young writers may be pushed toward lawyering, a talky, wordy profession, or into medical school because they're so smart. And so the child who is himself a born storyteller may be converted into a gifted therapist who gets his stories secondhand. Too intimidated to become artists themselves, very often too low in self-worth to even recognize that they have an artistic dream, these people become shadow artists instead. Artists themselves, but ignorant of their true identity, shadow artists are to be found shadowing declared artists. Unable to recognize that they themselves may possess the creativity they so admire, they often date or marry people who actively pursue the art career they themselves secretly long for. When Jerry was still blocked as an artist, he began to date Lisa, a gifted but broke freelance artist. "I am your biggest fan," he often told her. What he did not immediately tell her was that he himself dreamed of being a filmmaker. He had, in fact, an entire library of film books and avidly devoured special interest magazines on filmmaking. But he was afraid to take steps to actualize his interest. Instead, he poured his time and attention into Lisa and Lisa's art career. Under his guidance, her career flourished. She became solvent and increasingly well known. Jerry remained blocked in his own behalf. When Lisa suggested he take a filmmaking course, he ran for cover. Not everyone can be an artist, he told her, and himself. I'm always really suspicious of guys like this who approach and they're like, "I'm your biggest fan," they really want to rah-rah-rah you, but they don't seem to have any projects of their own. And I'm just like, why can't you meet me halfway here? Give me something to be excited about. Give something to be excited about too. Come on. So, red flag in my book. Artists love other artists. Shadow artists are gravitating to their rightful tribe but cannot yet claim their birthright. Very often audacity, not talent, makes one person an artist and another a shadow artist. Hiding in the shadows, afraid to step out and expose the dream to the light, fearful that it will disintegrate to the touch. Shadow artists often choose shadow careers, those close to the desired art, even parallel to it, but not the art itself. Noting their venom, Francois Truffaut contended that critics were themselves blocked directors, as he had been when he was a critic. He may be right. Intended fiction writers often go into newspapering or advertising, where they can use their gift without taking the plunge into their dreamed-of fiction writing career. Intended artists may become artist managers and derive a great deal of secondary pleasure from serving their dream at even one remove. Carolyn, herself a gifted photographer, made a successful but unhappy career as a photographer's rep. Jean, who yearned to write feature films, wrote mini-movies in her 30-second commercial spots. Kelly, who wanted to be a writer but feared taking her creativity seriously, made a profitable career out of repping really creative people. Shadow artists all, these women needed to place themselves and their dreams stage center. They knew this but didn't dare. They had been raised to the role of shadow artist and would need to work consciously to dismantle it. Yeah, I feel like this is a really exhausting position to be in. I feel like I've spent time in that role in my life, and it was a really frustrating and crazy making situation that led to a lot of resentment. And it was really hard to build relationships because I surrounded myself with people who had what I wanted, and I couldn't stand that they were willing to take what they wanted for themselves, and I couldn't do the same. It takes a great deal of ego strength to say to a well meaning but domineering parent, or a just plain domineering one, "Wait a minute, I am too an artist." The dreaded response may come back, "How do you know?" And, of course, the fledgling artist does not know. There is just this dream, this feeling, this urge, this desire. There is seldom any real proof, but the dream lives on. As a rule of thumb, shadow artists judge themselves harshly, beating themselves for years over the fact that they have not acted on their dreams. This cruelty only reinforces their status as shadow artists. Remember, it takes nurturing to make an artist. Shadow artists did not receive sufficient nurturing. They blame themselves for not acting fearlessly anyhow. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in that headspace. I get that. In a twisted version of Darwinian determinism, we tell ourselves that real artists can survive the most hostile environments and yet find their true calling, like homing pigeons. That's hogwash. Many real artists bear children too early or have too many, are too poor or too far removed culturally or monetarily from artistic opportunity to become the artists they really are. These artists, shadow artists, through no fault of their own, hear the distant piping of the dream but are unable to make their way through the cultural maze to find it. I think this represents my mother pretty well. She is a creative person and never really got a chance to express it, and so it came out in sometimes explosive and unexpected ways. For all shadow artists, life may be a discontented experience, filled with a sense of missed purpose and unfulfilled promise. They want to write, they want to paint, they want to act, make music, dance, but they are afraid to take themselves seriously. In order to move from the realm of shadows into the light of creativity, shadow artists must learn to take themselves seriously. With gentle, deliberate effort, they must nurture their artist child. Creativity is play, but for shadow artists, learning to allow themselves to play is hard work. I feel that. Protecting the artist child within. Remember, your artist is a child. Find and protect that child. Learning to let yourself create is like learning to walk. The artist child must begin by crawling. Baby steps will follow, and there will be falls. Yucky first paintings, beginning films that look like unedited home movies, first poems that would shame a greeting card. Typically, the recovering shadow artist will use these early efforts to discourage continued exploration. Judging your early artistic efforts is artist abuse. This happens in any number of ways. Beginning work is measured against the masterworks of other artists. Beginning work is exposed to premature criticism, shown to overly critical friends. In short, the fledgling artist behaves with well-practiced masochism. Masochism is an art form long ago mastered, perfected during the years of self-reproach. This habit is the self-hating bludgeon with which a shadow artist can beat himself right back into the shadows. Yeah, I grew up in a pretty critical household, and yeah, I learned over time that if I was really excited about something, I probably shouldn't share about it because I didn't want people to highlight all the negatives about it. I wanted to just enjoy that thing. In recovering from our creative blocks, it is necessary to go gently and slowly. What we're after here is the healing of old wounds, not the creation of new ones. No high jumping, please. Mistakes are necessary. Stumbles are normal. These are baby steps. Progress, not perfection, is what we should be asking of ourselves. Too far, too fast, and we can undo ourselves. Creative recovery is like marathon training. We want to log 10 slow miles for every one fast mile. This can go against the ego's grain. We want to be great, immediately great. But that is not how recovery works. Preach! It is an awkward, tentative, even embarrassing process. Definitely embarrassing process in my experience. There will be many times when we won't look good to ourselves or anyone else. We need to stop demanding that we do. It is impossible to get better and look good at the same time. Remember that in order to recover as an artist, you must be willing to be a bad artist. Give yourself permission to be a beginner. By being willing to be a bad artist, you have a chance to be an artist, and perhaps over time, a very good one. When I make this point in teaching, I am met by instant defensive hostility. But do you know how old I will be by the time I learn to really play the piano, act, paint, write a decent play? Yes, the same age you will be if you don't. So let's start. Your enemy within. Core negative beliefs. Most of the time, when we are blocked in an area of our life, it is because we feel safer that way. We may not be happy, but at least we know what we are, unhappy. Much fear of our own creativity is fear of the unknown. If I am fully creative, what will it mean? What will happen to me and to others? We have some pretty awful notions about what could happen. So rather than find out, we decide to stay blocked. This is seldom a conscious decision. It is more often an unconscious response to an internalized negative belief. In this week, we will work at uncovering our negative beliefs and discarding them. Here is a list of commonly held negative beliefs. I can't be a successful, prolific, creative artist because 1. Everyone will hate me. 2. I will hurt my friends and family. 3. I will go crazy. 4. I will abandon my friends and family. 5. I can't spell. 6. I don't have good enough ideas. 7. It will upset my mother and or father. 8. I will have to be alone. 9. I will find out I am gay if straight. 10. I will be struck straight if gay. 11. I will do bad work and not know it and look like a fool. 12. I will feel too angry. 13. I will never have any real money. 14. I will get self-destructive and drink, drug, or sex myself to death. 15. I will get cancer, AIDS, or a heart attack, or the plague. 16. My lover will leave me. 17. I will die. 18. I will feel bad because I don't deserve to be successful. 19. I will have only one good piece of work in me. 20. It's too late. If I haven't become a fully functioning artist yet, I never will. None of these core negatives need be true. They come to us from our parents, our religion, our culture, and our fearful friends. Ditch those fearful friends. They're not your friends. Your real friends are going to encourage you to go for it. Each one of these beliefs reflects notions we have about what it means to be an artist. Once we have cleared away the most sweeping cultural negatives, we may find we are still stubbornly left with core negatives we have acquired from our families, teachers, and friends. These are often more subtle, but equally undermining if not confronted. Our business here is confronting them. Negative beliefs are exactly that. Beliefs, not facts. The world was never flat, although everyone believed it was. You are not dumb, crazy, egomaniacal, grandiose, or silly just because you falsely believe yourself to be. What you are is scared. Core negatives keep you scared. The bottom line is that core negatives, personal and cultural, always go for your jugular. They attack your sexuality, your lovability, your intelligence, whatever vulnerability they can latch onto. Some core negative beliefs and their positive alternatives are listed below. Negative beliefs. Artists are drunk, crazy, broke, irresponsible, loners, promiscuous, doomed, unhappy, and born not made. Positive alternatives. Artists can be sober, sane, solvent, responsible, user-friendly, faithful, saved, happy, discovered, and recovered. For example, In a female artist, the artists are promiscuous cliche may have in its place a personal negative. No man will ever love you if you are an artist. Artists are either celibate or gay. This negative, picked up from a mother or teacher and unarticulated by the young artist, can constitute grounds for a powerful block. Similarly, a young male artist may have the personal negative, male artists are either gay or impotent. This notion, picked up from a teacher or from reading too much about Fitzgerald and Hemingway, may again create a block. Who wants to be sexually dysfunctional? A gay artist may have yet another spin on the ball. If only heterosexual art is really acceptable, so why make my art if I have to either disguise it or come out of the closet whether I want to or not? Stripped to their essence, our multiple negative beliefs reveal a central negative belief. We must trade one good, beloved dream for another. In other words, if being an artist seems too good to be true to you, you will devise a price tag for it that strikes you as unpayable. Well, shit. Hence, you remain blocked. Most blocked creatives carry unacknowledged either-or reasoning that stands between them and their work. To become unblocked, we must recognize our either-or thinking. I can either be romantically happy or an artist. I can either be financially successful or an artist. It is possible, quite possible, to be both an artist and romantically fulfilled. It is quite possible to be an artist and financially successful. I'd love to see both of those come true. Let's see. Your block doesn't want you to see that. Its whole plan of attack is to make you irrationally afraid of some dire outcome you are too embarrassed to even mention. You know rationally that writing or painting shouldn't be put off because of your silly fear, but because it is a silly fear, you don't air it, and the block stays intact. In this way, you're a bad speller successfully overrides all computer spelling programs. You know it's dumb to worry about spelling, so you don't mention it, and since you don't, it continues to block you from finding a solution. Spelling fear is a remarkably common block. In the next part of this week, we will excavate your unconscious beliefs by using some logic brain, artist brain learning tricks. These may strike you as hokey and unproductive. Again, that's resistance. If internalized negativity is the enemy within, what follows is some very effective weaponry. Try it before discarding it out of hand. I love how often in this book, she's just like, wait. I know, but just give it a second. Your ally within. Affirmative weapons. As blocked creatives, we often sit on the sidelines critiquing those in the game. He's not so talented, we may say, of a currently hot artist. And we may be right about that. All too often, it is audacity and not talent that moves an artist to center stage. As blocked creatives, we tend to regard these bogus spotlight grabbers with animosity. We may be able to defer to true genius, but if it's merely a genius for self-promotion we're witnessing, our resentment runs high. This is not just jealousy. It is a stalling technique that reinforces our staying stuck. We make speeches to ourselves and other willing victims. I could do that better, if only. I was definitely guilty of that when I was younger. Absolutely. You could do it better if only you would let yourself do it. Alright, maybe we're getting a little ableist here, but this was written back in the 90s, so we'll forgive her for that. Affirmations will help you allow yourself to do it. An affirmation is a positive statement of positive belief, and if we can become 1/10 as good at positive self-talk as we are at negative self-talk, we will notice an enormous change. Affirmations help achieve a sense of safety and hope. When we first start working with affirmations, they may feel dumb, hokey, embarrassing. Isn't this interesting? We can easily and without embarrassment bludgeon ourselves with negative affirmations. I'm not gifted enough, not clever enough, not original enough, not young enough. But saying nice things about ourselves is notoriously hard to do. It feels pretty awful at first. Try these and see if they don't sound hopelessly syrupy. I deserve love. I deserve fair pay. I deserve a rewarding creative life. I am a brilliant and successful artist. I have rich creative talents. I am competent and confident in my creative work. I feel like I'm in an episode of Severance right now. If you know, you know. Did your censor perk its nasty little ears up? Censors loathe anything that sounds like real self worth. They immediately start up with the imposter routine. Who do you think you are? It's as though our entire collective unconscious sat up late nights watching Walt Disney's 101 Dalmatians and practicing Cruella de Vil's delivery for scathing indictments. Just try picking an affirmation. For example, I, Lizzy Go, am a brilliant and prolific poet. Write that 10 times in a row. While you are busy doing that, something very interesting will happen. Your censor will start to object. Hey, wait a minute. You can't say all that positive stuff around me. Objections will start to pop up like burnt toast. These are your blurts. Alright, I'm going to try doing this out loud instead of writing it since we're doing this in video format. So I'm going to take that statement and say it 10 times, and I'm just going to say if I have any resistance to it. So, I, Lizzy, am a brilliant and prolific poet. 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 It does not feel good. Wow. I, Lizzy, am a brilliant and prolific poet. I feel like somebody is going to sort of swoop in and be like, no, you're not. I, Lizzy, am a brilliant and prolific poet. 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 Last one. I, Lizzy, am a brilliant and prolific poet. Yeah, I had a lot of like nasty feelings of like fear around somebody telling me, no, you're not. Just no. So, yeah, okay. Well spotted, book. All right. Listen to the objections. Look at the ugly, stumpy little blurts. Brilliant and prolific. Sure you are. Since when? Can't spell. You call writer's block prolific? You're just kidding yourself. An idiot. Grandiose. Who are you kidding? Who do you think you are? And so on. You will be amazed at the rotten things your subconscious will blurt out. Write them down. These blurts flag your personal negative core beliefs. They hold the key to your freedom in their ugly little claws. Make a list of your personal blurts. Yeah, mine are definitely along the lines of just like, no, any definitive statement that you say is surely wrong. Somebody outside of yourself surely knows better than you do. That's the theme of mine. It's time to do a little detective work. Where do your blurts come from? Mom? Dad? Teachers? Using your list of blurts, scan your past for possible sources. At least some of them will spring violently to mind. One effective way to locate the sources is to time travel. Break your life into 5-year increments and list by name your major influences in each time block. This was definitely written for somebody who doesn't have ADHD or PTSD, but let's give it a whirl. Yeah, I think the fountain from which my blurts spring forth is definitely my family experience. I had a pretty challenging relationship with my mother. We don't talk anymore. That was my choice. I know that she would like it if we talked, but it's not healthy for me, so for now, it's not an option. And part of the reason for that is that she was the person who planted all of these nasty blurts in my mind in the first place. So I just feel like if she were not related to me, I would not think it was safe to have her in my life. So I think that it's worth listening to that, even if it's somebody who's related to you by blood. Back to the book. Paul had always wanted to be a writer. And yet, after a brief flurry of college creativity, he stopped showing his writing to anyone. Instead of the short stories he dreamed of, he kept journal after journal, each following the last into a dark drawer far from prying eyes. Why he did this was a mystery to him until he tried working with affirmations and blurts. When Paul began writing his affirmations, he was immediately shaken by an almost volcanic blast of disparagement. He wrote, I, Paul, am a brilliant and prolific writer. From deep in his unconscious, there erupted a spewing torrent of self abuse and self doubt. It was numbingly specific and somehow familiar. You're just kidding yourself. A fool, no real talent, a pretender, a dilettante, a joke. Where did this core belief come from? Who could have said this to him? When? Paul went time traveling to look for the villain. He located him with great embarrassment. Yes, there was a villain and an incident he had been too ashamed to share and air. A malevolent early teacher had first praised his work and then set about a sexual seduction. Fearful that he had somehow invited the man's attention, ashamed lest the work really be rotten too, Paul buried the incident in his unconscious, where it festered. No wonder secondary motives were always a fear when someone praised him. No surprise he felt that someone could praise work and did not mean it. Yeah, as a woman who was working in restaurants before Me Too happened, I have definitely had my share of experiences of somebody praising my work with a second agenda in mind. And it is a really disappointing and anxiety inducing experience. Boiled down to its essentials, Paul's core negative belief was that he was only kidding himself that he could write. This belief had dominated his thinking for a decade. Whenever people complimented him on his work, he was deeply suspicious of them and their motives. He had all but dropped friends once they had expressed interest in his talents. He had certainly stopped trusting them. When his girlfriend Mimi expressed interest in his talents, he even stopped trusting her. Once Paul brought this monster up from the depths, he could begin to work with it. I, Paul, have a real talent. I, Paul, trust and enjoy positive feedback. I, Paul, have a real talent. Although such positive affirmations felt very uncomfortable at first, they rapidly allowed Paul the freedom to participate in the first public reading of his work. When he was widely praised, he was able to accept the good response without discounting it. Turn now to your own list of blurts. They are very important to your recovery. Each of them has held you in bondage. Each of them must be dissolved. For example, a blurt that runs, I, Fred, am untalented and phony, might be converted to the affirmation, I, Fred, am genuinely talented. Use your affirmations after your morning pages. Also use any of the creative affirmations listed. And they have a whole bunch of really nice affirmations, and I'm just going to read these because I think it might be nice to hear them out loud. 1. I am a channel for God's creativity and my work comes to good. 2. My dreams come from God and God has the power to accomplish them. Reminder that God can mean anything that feels good to you, not just sort of Jesus God. So let's all just relax. 3. As I create and listen, I will be led. 4. Creativity is the Creator's will for me. 5. My creativity heals myself and others. 6. I am allowed to nurture my artist. 7. Through the use of a few simple tools, my creativity will flourish. 8. Through the use of my creativity, I serve God. 9. My creativity always leads me to truth and love. 10. My creativity leads me to forgiveness and self-forgiveness. 11. There is a divine plan of goodness for me. At 12. There is a divine plan of goodness for my work. 13. As I listen to the Creator within, I am led. 14. As I listen to my creativity, I am led to my Creator. 15. I am willing to create. 16. I am willing to learn to let myself create. 17. I am willing to let God create through me. 18. I am willing to be of service through my creativity. 19. I am willing to experience my creative energy. And 20. I am willing to use my creative talents. And now we have some tasks. I'm going to go ahead and read all those tasks. And reminding myself and others that The instructions are to choose about half of these tasks, both the ones that are strongly appealing and strongly not appealing. So let's see what we come up with. Tasks. 1. Every morning, set your clock 1/2 hour early. Get up and write 3 pages of longhand, stream of consciousness morning writing. Do not reread these pages or allow anyone else to read them. Ideally, stick these pages in a large manila envelope or hide them somewhere. Welcome to the morning pages. They will change you. This week, please be sure to work with your affirmations of choice and your blurts at the end of each day's morning pages. Convert all blurts into positive affirmations. So the morning pages, I believe, are something that are requested to do every day in this program. So I'm going to just go ahead and choose that one. 2. Take yourself on an artist date. You will do this every week for the duration of the course. A sample artist date. Take $5 and go to your local 5 and dime. Buy silly things like gold stickum stars, tiny dinosaurs, some postcards, sparkly sequins, glue, a kid's scissors, crayons. You might give yourself a gold star on your envelope each day you write, just for fun. Yeah, okay, maybe. 3. Time travel. List 3 old enemies of your creative self-worth. Please be as specific as possible in doing this exercise. Your historic monsters are the building blocks of your core negative beliefs. Yes, rotten Sister Ann Rita from 5th grade does count, and the rotten thing she said to you does matter. Put her in. This is your Monster Hall of Fame. More monsters will come to you as you work through your recovery. It is always necessary to acknowledge creative injuries and grieve them. Otherwise, they become creative scar tissue and block your growth. This one seems both scary and appealing, so I think I'm going to do that one. 4. Time travel. Select and write out 1 horror story from your Monster Hall of Fame. You do not need to write long or much, but do jot down whatever details come back to you. The room you were in, the way people looked at you, the way you felt, what your parents said or didn't say when you told about it. Include whatever rankles you about the incident. You may find it cathartic to draw a sketch of your old monster or to clip out an image that evokes the incident for you. Cartoon trashing your monster, or at least draw a nice red X. I don't think this is edited well. Cartoon trash your monster, or at least draw a nice red X through it. 5. Write a letter to the editor in your defense. Mail it to yourself. It is great fun to write this letter in the voice of your wounded artist child. To whom it may concern, Sister Ann Rita is a jerk and has pig eyes and I can't do spell. That might be a good one for me to do. I feel like I need to come to my own defense more often. Time travel. List 3 old champions of your creative self-worth. This is your hall of champions, those who wish you and your creativity well. Be specific. Every encouraging word counts. Even if you disbelieve a compliment, record it. It may well be true. If you are stuck for compliments, go back through your time travel log and look for positive memories. When, where, and why did you feel good about yourself? Who gave you affirmation? Additionally, you may wish to write the compliment out and decorate it. Post it near where you do your morning pages or on the dashboard of your car. I put mine on the chassis of my computer to cheer me as I write. Yeah, this seems, okay. I feel like I'm not so drawn to that one. Time travel. Select and write out 1 happy piece of encouragement. Write a thank you letter. Mail it to yourself or to the long-lost mentor. We're up to 8 now. Imaginary lives. If you had 5 other lives to lead, what would you do in each of them? I would be a pilot, a cowhand, a physicist, a psychic, a monk. You might be a scuba diver, a cop, a writer of children's books, a football player, a belly dancer, a painter, a performance artist, a history teacher, a healer, a coach, a scientist, a doctor, a Peace Corps worker, a psychologist, a fisherman, a minister, an auto mechanic, a carpenter, a sculptor, a lawyer, a painter, a computer hacker, a soap opera star, a country singer, a rock and roll drummer. Whatever occurs to you, jot it down. Do not overthink this exercise. The point of these lives is to have fun in them, more fun than you might be having in this one. Look over your list and select one, then do it this week. For instance, if you put down a country singer, can you pick a guitar? If you dream of being a cowhand, what about some horseback riding? This one seems fun. I might want to do that one. 9. In working with affirmations and blurts, very often injuries and monsters swim back to us. Add these to your list as they occur to you. Work with each blurt individually. Turn each negative into an affirmative positive. And last but not least, number 10. Take your artist for a walk, the two of you. A brisk 20-minute walk can dramatically alter consciousness. That's true. Many times in my life, I have needed to take a walk and get my head back on straight. All right, and now we set standards for the check-in. So, check-in. You will do check-ins every week. If you are running your creative week Sunday to Sunday, do your check-ins each Saturday. Remember that this recovery is yours. What you think is important, and it will become increasingly interesting to you as you progress. You may want to do check-ins in your morning pages notebook. It's best to answer by hand and allow about 20 minutes to respond. The purpose of check-ins is to give you a journal of your creative journey. It is my hope that you will later share the tools with others, and in doing so, find your own notes invaluable. Yes, I was mad in week 4. I loved week 5. So the check-in items here. Number 1, how many days this week did you do your morning pages? 7 out of 7, we always hope. How was the experience for you? 2, did you do your artist date this week? Yes, of course, we always hope, and yet artist dates can be remarkably difficult to allow yourself. What did you do? How did it feel? And 3, were there any other issues this week that you consider significant for your recovery? Describe them. So that's the end of this chapter that describes week 1. So these are the goals that I'm going to be working with for the next 7 days. So when next we speak, I'm going to start with this check-in, and I'm just going to share how all of that went. And I'm hoping that if you have your own experiences that you'd like to share in the comments, that you feel comfortable sharing those as well, because I'd really love to hear how everything is going on your own Artist's Way journey. So thank you so much for joining me and for walking the Artist's Way with me, Lizzy Co. I hope to see you next week for week 2. So I'll see you then.